Hi Osage kids, I'm going to continue to read Old Wolf by Avi. When we left off, Casey had just came upon Merla in the woods and in fact used his bow and arrow outside of his parents' permission, and he ended up shooting Merla and killing her. And when that happened, he could feel the big difference between actually doing something like that in real life and a video game, and he felt terrible about it. So no sooner had he done that and gone through those hard feelings, and then he came upon Neshaba, and Neshaba, of course, is very injured, and Casey has vowed to help him and maybe feel better about himself, you know, because of what happened with the raven. So, chapter 47 was the last chapter I read. We begin with chapter 48. So Casey has run off to go get, you know, food or whatever it is he feels like would help Neshaba. Chapter 48. Neshaba was confused. What had just happened? What was the human doing? Why had he run off? Would he come back? Would the human kill him then? Had he killed Merla? The wolf thought of trying to move, but it was nothing more than a thought. He resigned himself to waiting to learn what the human did next. Besides, he wanted to save every bit of his remaining strength. I can defend myself, thought Neshaba. I can. Chapter 49. It was raining gently but steadily as Casey rushed into his house, through the hall and into the kitchen. He left the bow and arrows on the kitchen table, then pulled open the fridge door, saw a package of sausages, and yanked it out. He also grabbed a plastic bottle of water and a shallow bowl from the cupboard. From the kitchen, he went to the bathroom and opened the cabinet over the sink, scanned the cabinet, and pulled out a tube of ointment, something his mother put on his small cuts and bruises. Hands full, pockets stuffed, telling himself he'd need to clean up his muddy footsteps when he got back, he ran outside. Next second, he rushed back to the kitchen. A notepad and pencil were stuck to the fridge door with a magnet. He scribbled, "Walking in forest, back soon, see." Outside again, he raced for the trees. Rain was falling more heavily. The snow was melting. Just as Casey reached the trees, he was struck with a completely new thought. What if the dog was the wolf Mr. Souza saw? Excitedly, he ran forward. Chapter 50. Neshaba? Startled to hear his name, the wolf looked around, hoping to see Merla. It was Tanagan. In her mouth was a hunk of raw meat. She dropped it right in front of Neshaba's mouth. He said nothing, just grabbed it and bolted it down. "Where did you get it?" he asked when he was done. "We caught some of the elk." Not wishing to ask more, Neshaba said, "What are you doing here?" "I said I'd come back, didn't I?" "You mustn't stay," said Neshaba. "You need to get away fast." "Why?" "There's a human coming. He just found me. I think he's coming back so he can kill me. He may have already killed my friend." "What friend?" "A raven. There's a dead one back among the trees." "A raven? Dead?" Tanagan nodded. Neshaba said, "It must have been that human." "Can't you smell him?" "Yes, but Tanagan, he'll kill you too. You have to get away fast. The pups need you." The two wolves gazed at each other. "Go," Neshaba cried, "fast as you can." Tanagan turned, halted, looked back, whispered goodbye, and ran off. Neshaba watched her bounding away among the trees. He stared for a long time until he could no longer see her. As Neshaba lay there, he began to feel new energy from the food he'd just eaten. "That human killed Merla," he thought. Then he told himself, "I have one more kill in me." Hoping it was true, he closed his eyes and waited. Chapter 51. Holding tightly to the sausage, water, and bowl, Casey burst into the clearing. The dog, or was it a wolf, was lying perfectly still, eyes closed. The boy halted. "He's dead," he thought. "I'm too late." Only to see the animal's sides heave. "Good boy," he said. "You're breathing." He went forward a few steps. Hearing the voice, Neshaba opened his eyes and lifted his snout. His staring eyes, dark and deep, brought Casey to a sudden stop. His dad's words, "I wouldn't mess with a wolf," popped into his head. If he's a wolf, the boy told himself, a wounded wolf, he might be dangerous. He studied Nishaba. "You a wolf?" he called, asking himself as much as Nishaba. Nishaba's eyes, giving no hint as to his thoughts, held steady. What's he doing? Casey wondered. Is he going to attack me? Nishaba, keeping his eyes on the boy, told himself, wait until he's closer. Wait. Casey, uncertain what to do, remained in place, heart hammering. "You look in a bad way, fella," he said. Nishaba made no response. Casey went forward, 2 tentative steps. "You're going to be okay," he said, trying to sound reassuring. "I've got food." He held it up. Nishaba's eyes, unblinking, remained motionless. "Is it okay that I help you?" asked Casey, wishing the animal would give some hint as to what he might do. "He doesn't seem dangerous," Casey told himself. There was just no movement from Nishaba. "Just want to be your friend," Casey offered. He took another step forward, even as he prepared to jump back if the wolf did anything threatening. Nishaba remained still, eyes steady. Closer now, Casey stretched out his hand. It was trembling slightly with the sausages. Nishaba, intent on the boy's face, told himself to be patient. Wait until he's nearer, until he's nearer. Crouching, Casey tossed the meat so it landed in front of Nishaba's nose. Though Nishaba understood he was being offered food, he did not look at it. Instead, he kept his eyes fixed on the boy, telling himself he killed Merla. "Go on, big boy," Casey urged. "Eat, it's good for you." The smell of food was too enticing. After a few moments, Nishaba reached forward, took the sausage into his mouth, and swallowed it quickly. "Attaboy," cried Casey, his tension easing. "Want some water?" He edged nearer. On his knees in the thin snow, he carefully set the bowl down where the sausages had been. He emptied the bottled water into it, even tipped the bowl up slightly. That done, he shuffled back. Nishaba hesitated, then lapped the water. "Good, isn't it, boy?" said Casey, remaining on his knees. "Still hungry, fella? Thirsty? Should I get some more?" Nishaba stared, trying to make sense of the human. Was he being kind, like Merla? Or was he going to kill him? Casey took the tube of ointment out of his back pocket and held it up. "If you let me put some of this stuff on your paw, big guy, it might help." He unscrewed the cap and held it up as if the wolf might make sense of it. When the wolf made no response, Casey, feeling increasingly sure of himself, shuffled forward on his knees. He stretched down towards Nishaba's paw. Nishaba kept his eyes on the human face. Casey squeezed the tube until a thick blob of yellow ointment plopped down onto the wound. He sat back. "Okay?" he asked. The wolf gave no reaction. Leaning in, Casey put out his fingers and began to smear it about the wound. That was when Nishaba lurched forward and bit Casey's hand. "Hey!" Casey cried and tried to pull back. Nishaba clamped down tighter. "Let me go!" cried the frightened boy, unable to pull away. Awkwardly, he tried to get his feet under himself to gain leverage. "You're hurting me!" he screamed. "Let me go!" Nishaba had no understanding of what the human was saying. It sounded like pleading. He didn't care. But as he held on to the human's hand, he suddenly recalled how his pups had mouthed him when they begged for food and life. It was as if he, Nishaba, had become young and this human was old. And when he looked into the boy's face, he saw fright, the kind of fright he had recently felt. "I can't kill him," he told himself, and he opened his mouth and let the boy go. Casey snatched back his hand, cupped it in his other hand, and examined it. His skin was barely broken. He sucked on a spot of blood and looked reproachfully at the animal. "Why'd you do that?" he cried, tears coming from hurt and shock. "I was just trying to help you." Nishaba put his head down between his paws, but continued to stare at the boy. Casey's hurt subsided. My fault, he said. Guess that stuff stung a bit. Sorry, just trying to help. He smeared his tears while pushing wet hair away from his face. All the while, he continued to study Nishaba. You know what? He said. You have really sad eyes. Clumsily, the boy got to his feet. Want me to get you more food? Nishaba made no response. Be right back, said Casey, and he started to run. All right, I'll see you guys soon.